Okay, so in this video, right, you will see, for example, over here, there'll be words in red color. So what this means that these red color words are keywords, which I think you should highlight in your notes so that when you revise, it's easier for you to revise what is important to memorize. So like these keywords like chemically combined together, these are important words for you to answer the questions in the practice and also in exams also. So for compounds, let's move on to compounds. So compounds are two or more elements chemically combined together, and this can be represented by a chemical formula, like for example NaCl. In the periodic table that we have gone through last week, you will find that Na represents sodium and chlorine, Cl represents chlorine. So NaCl means sodium chloride, and this is the salt that we eat in our food. So compounds also has chemical formula that shows the ratios of the elements in the compound. So for example, you see CaCl2, right? It has a Cl2, which means that there's 2 chlorine atoms is to 1 calcium atom. So this shows the fixed ratio of the compound itself. And NaCl has 1:1 ratio of sodium is to chlorine. And compounds, they have a fixed melting and boiling point. They do not change at all. And compounds have different chemical properties from their constituent elements. So for example, water is a compound, H2O, is made out of hydrogen and oxygen chemically combined together. And water has a different chemical property compared to oxygen and hydrogen. And compounds cannot be separated into their constituent elements easily. This requires very complicated chemical methods. So for mixtures, it consists of 2 or more elements, 2 or n elements or compounds not chemically combined together, which is like air, sea, water, and milk. So in the diagram below, you can see is the composition of air. Air consists of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other gases such as mostly argon. So these elements of nitrogen, oxygen, or like compounds such as carbon dioxide, they are not chemically combined together, but they exist together. So in the air atmosphere. So like seawater, it consists of many different elements, compounds, like your minerals, your water, H2O is a compound, and your other and you also has like other contaminants such as sand inside seawater. So mixtures has the same characteristics as its constituents. So for example, salt water, you mix salt together with water. This salt water is a form of mixture. So salt water, it has a property of tasting salty, right? And whereas salt, it also tastes salty. So when you mix salt and water, you become salt water. This means that the mixture of salt water has the same characteristics as its constituents such as salt, which is both tasting salty. So constituents do not have a fixed proportion. So for example, your salt water can have 50% salt, 50% water, or 20% salt, 80% water. So there's no fixed ratio that you can use. You can adjust the ratio as and when you want. And this can be separated easily, which will be further elaborated in chapter 4. So the part about fixed proportion is different from compounds, because compounds have a fixed ratio, right? Your CaCl2, it has a fixed ratio of 2:1, whereas mixtures do not have. Okay, so a solution. So what is a solution? A solution is a mixture where one substance dissolves completely in another substance. So what do I mean by this? So for example, you make Milo, right? Your Milo powder is being dissolved in hot water. This forms your Milo that you drink every day, and this is a type of solution. So I want to bring to your attention of these two terms, solute and solvent. So these two terms are very important terms that you need to memorize because they will be used very frequently in the subsequent slides and also in your exams and practices. So you need to know the difference between a solute and a solvent. So a solute is a substance that is being dissolved. So in this case, it's your Milo powder. And your solvent is something that dissolves the solute, which is your hot water. So you use your solvent to dissolve the solute. Okay? So there's also this thing called concentrated versus diluted solution. So concentrated solution it means that there is a high percentage of solute. So you can see in the picture below, you see the very faint pink color solution. This shows that it's a very diluted solution where there is a low percentage of your dissolved solutes. Whereas you see the very red color solution, this is a concentrated solution because you have a high number of red particles in the solution. Okay, so you need to know the difference between a concentrated versus a diluted solution. Okay, so for rate of dissolving, soluble substance means that your solute is able to dissolve in a solvent. So for example, your Milo powder is a solute, right? It can be dissolved in hot water. So means that your Milo powder is soluble in water, whereas insoluble means that your solute is unable to dissolve in the solvent. So there's three factors affecting rate of dissolving. First is size of solute particles, where smaller the size of solute means that there's a faster rate of dissolving. Secondly is your temperature of solvent. Higher temperature means that there's a faster rate of dissolving. And lastly, higher your rate of stirring means that your faster rate of stirring, there is a faster rate of dissolving. So for example, like in the case of Milo again, right? Your size of your Milo powder, is it very fine? It's a very small particles, right? Which means that because of these small particles, your Milo powder is able to dissolve in hot water at a faster rate. And you use hot water because you can faster dissolve your Milo powder, right? And then after that, you stir your solution. You stir your Milo so that your Milo your Milo powder can dissolve faster in the hot water. Okay, so for suspensions. So suspension is a mixture that has an insoluble solute in a solvent. So this insoluble solute can be removed through filtration, which will be elaborated in chapter 4. So for example, you see this image, right? It has some sand particles in water. So these sand particles sinks to the bottom of the glass because it's unable to dissolve in water. So this means that this mixture of soil particles and water is a type of suspension. Okay, so quiz time. So I want you to identify what each pictures represent. So whether it's a compound, a mixture, solution, or suspension. So you can pause for a while to think about it. Okay, so for the first image that you can see on your top left hand side is this shiny metal, right? This metal is actually sodium metal. So what is sodium metal considered as? If you think about it, sodium metal is a type of element in the periodic table, right? So this image of sodium metal is a type of element. So as you can see the picture of a coffee, what do you think this is? So this picture of a coffee is actually a solution because it has some coffee extract dissolved in hot water, so which gives you coffee. So on the top right hand side image, it has an image of a soil. So what do you think soil is considered as? It's actually considered as a mixture because it has many different elements and compounds being mixed together. So like in soil, you have your fertilizer such as like your phosphorus and other type of elements and compounds that is mixed together to give you soil. So in the image below on your right hand side, it says salt, right? So what is salt? I think this was mentioned previously when I talked about NaCl. So what NaCl is, right? NaCl is sodium chloride, which is the salt that you eat. And what is NaCl? NaCl is a type of compound. So in the image on the bottom right left hand side, it is an image of so it has some soil particles being sink down to the bottom of water, right? So what is this considered as? Yes, it's considered as a suspension because it has insoluble soil particles at the bottom of the flask, which is in water. So this soil particle cannot be dissolved in water and therefore sink to the bottom. Very good. So this is the end of the recording. So please attempt your worksheet and then we'll go through next week in class or the next lesson that we have. Thank you.